Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. It's a vibe, right? I know. Make sure that you catch the Gene Therapy podcast and the Article 2's podcast number 2 came out the end of last week. Make sure you check that out. If you're on the YouTube channel, you will find that in the link description or the link in the description. Make sure you go and check that out. Shout out to CWN Sports for allowing the platform for me to do that. It is a Monday, and it is Monday. It tends to be a football Monday, but to be honest, like the stuff that happened on the field in the NFL, it's kind of blowout cities, and then some teams made it, interesting down the stretch. But the teams that dominated the game ultimately won. In college football, a few, I won't even call them upsets because once you get down to the last 8 teams in the FCS, there are no upsets. All of those teams are good. Sam Houston lost, and that ended a run that they had for many games where they didn't lose. It's quite remarkable to see the run that they went on, and to watch all of the hate that they received because they were winning and the traditional powers were not winning. It's really interesting because we always ask for change, and then we get change, and then people go, oh, well, that change is a fluke. Well, I mean, the only way you get change is for something to happen that didn't happen ever before or didn't happen in an extremely long time, and so therefore it could be called a fluke. That's hustling backwards, though. But Sam Houston lost, and I'll actually refer back to Sam Houston because I think it's a part of the discussion today. But they lost, ending a run and ending their time in the FCS. And I really appreciate the fact that a team like Sam Houston reached the pinnacle and went, what's next? Or do we want to just continue to do this? I ascribe to that. I think that you should get to whatever the level is that you can get to at a particular place or particular point, and then it's fair to say what's next. It's fair to say what's next. So I definitely applaud what Sam Houston is doing, but I wanted to give them a shout out. Also wanted to pay much respect to North Dakota State, who is once again making a run towards a national title. I don't like the fact that they can't seem to pass the ball or don't really have a lot of investment in passing the ball, because I think at some point there's going to be a team that can hold up to all of that running pressure and make it a really long day for North Dakota State. And when they do, what are you going to do when you're not developing your passing game in these games that you are handling teams? That seems to be a great time to experiment, or not to experiment, but to practice to make sure that your passing game is where it needs to be when you need it to be there. But shout out to them for their victory, and they really seem like, man, that defense is biting. They have had a decent path, and so that can't be lost. It can't be lost, as we said before, that James Madison had a decent path, but they got it done. Shout out to Montana, who tried to give them a game, but lost their starting quarterback, and I believe their starting wide receiver really early in the game. And so that became more difficult a task because they're not the most explosive offense to start with. But it's really hard to root for Montana because Montana fans are really, really like bad. Like they just talk noise for no reason. And they discredit everything that's not Montana. I don't really understand why. I don't know where the vitriol came from, because I haven't followed long enough to know. I followed the FCS long enough to know that it hasn't been Montana on top, but I haven't followed long enough to know why the Montana fans are the way they are. But they are. At the end of the day, that's what they do. And so it's not lost on me that the Montana fan base, when they lost, were really, really quiet. Except for the ones that are bolden, and guess what they did? Made excuses. There are no excuses. At this point in the year, either you win or you lose. And they lost. But I think Montana's a fantastic team, and I really wish their fans would get it together, because I'd love to root for them more. Montana State was able to get it done. So, by the way, let me give a shout out to Montana State, who Montana fans took an opportunity to ridicule when they were able to beat them in the regular season game, called them posers and fakes and all that, and now they're playing in Montana's home. Montana State got it done versus Sam Houston, excuse me. And you have to appreciate getting it done. They were able to jump out early and then never let Sam Houston be able to run them down, like we've seen Sam Houston do so many times over their run. And then finally, South Dakota State, who got the gift of going on the road for every single game, even though they were a team that were worthy of a top 4 seed, because they lost a couple games dealing with injury. They were not only knocked out of the top 8 seeds, knocked out of the top 4 seeds, but they were knocked out of the top 8 seeds. That's significant. That is really significant. And so because of that, they've had a decent little path to the championship, even though they've had to play one more game. They've had a pretty, like I said, there's nothing easy at this point, but they've had a pretty manageable route to the championship. And so we appreciate them, because they, now being more healthy, they look like the team that almost won it all in the spring. And they have a quarterback, and as long as they can keep that quarterback upright, they're going to have a chance to win. And that's awesome. So congratulations to the Jacks. Can anybody just imagine how bananas Frisco is going to be if South Dakota State is there versus North Dakota State? Not lost on me that the selection committee set these things up so that there was a chance that 2 Missouri Valley Football Conference teams would be in the final, because there was a representative in each region. And now we sit at the precipice where both of them have a better than good chance of making that happen. South Dakota State has to go on the road, obviously, again, to take on Montana State, but Montana State's not world beaters. Like, they can be beaten. And I promise you, South Dakota State won't come out slow. And then obviously the North Dakota State James Madison matchup is a heavyweight matchup that we'll all be sitting and watching to see what the outcome of that will be. So definitely some things to get ready for when it comes to the FCS, and we'll talk more about it this week. Also this week, the Celebration Bowl happens this weekend. And I'm really excited because I will be on location. Make sure that you follow me on Saturday for all your James Madison, all of your Jackson State versus South Carolina State action. I will be on location. Coach Gene Clemens at the Cricket Celebration Bowl. Is it Cricket Celebration Bowl? We'll just say Celebration Bowl right now. Coach Gene Clemens at the Celebration Bowl. I will be there. You make sure that if you're not there, that you are following me so that you get. I'm gonna have a ball. I'll be having videos going up literally by the hour. So make sure that you check it out. It should be a good time. We as sports fans, especially, we love to make things more difficult than they have to be. We love to find the opportunity to say that one thing's wrong because of another thing. I don't really understand why. So here's the thing. 'Tis the season for players to opt out of playing bowl games in lieu of what they say is training for the NFL Combine. Now, I support it, but I don't agree with it, because at the end of the day, what better training and what better way can you have to put yourself in the best light than by just playing? See, me personally, I would play in the bowl game and forego all of the other stuff that to me is not football. Especially if I am a first day, second day pick. If I'm slated to be a first, second day pick, I'm telling people to go look at the film. So I don't necessarily agree with opting out, but as a player's guy, I support opting out. I support it. Why not? Here's the problem. When people use the reasoning of coaches leaving as a means of, or as a reason why players should be able to opt out, you're being disingenuous. It's not the same argument. And I hear it all the time. It's not the same argument. But let's just say that for the sake of argument, it is the same. Just because it's wrong for coaches to leave programs before the job is done doesn't mean that it's not wrong for players to leave programs before the job is done. Both of them are truth. There's two truths there. The first truth is that when a coach leaves a team before the season is over with, that's wrong. The same way that it's wrong for them to fire a coach before the season is over. That's wrong. The same way that it's wrong for a player to leave to go and prepare for an NFL that's not promised to him. That's wrong. Now, toothpaste is out the tube, so of those three, I support the kid more because that's the one that's not getting paid. But make no mistake about it, all of these things are true. It's wrong that players don't finish the job they started. It's wrong that coaches don't finish the job they started. Both of these things can be true at the same time. What's a better argument, or what the argument you hear me make all the time is, well, if coaches are going to be able to leave for what they consider to be a better position, players should be able to leave for what they deem is a better position. And we've seen that come to fruition. By the way, once again, never get it lost. I don't care how many people are in the transfer portal. Why? Because if they're in the transfer portal, then that means that's how many scholarships are out there. So if a team had 10 scholarships to give out to high schoolers before, and then they had 10 kids go into the transfer portal, now they have 20 scholarships. So what these high school players have to understand is that the team that they may have wanted to go to no longer has that scholarship, but somebody does. What the player who just went into the transfer portal understands, if I leave a team, they're probably going to replace me with somebody from the transfer portal, which means that there's another scholarship out there for me. Two truths. What I love as a coach, to see players stick it out, work their way up the depth chart. Freshman year, you're sitting, learning. If you're not ready, sophomore year, you're a special teamer, spot duty guy. Junior year, you're a starter. Senior year, you're a star. Yes, I would love for that to happen. That's not the way it's working. And why is it not working that way? Because many of these teams and the coaches can't afford to wait for a kid to mature from freshman to senior. They don't have that type of leeway. They don't have that type of rope. They can't afford to have a couple 6 and 7 win seasons because you're going to fire them. And because you're going to fire them, they can't wait. Do any of you people really believe that if Dan Mullen would have stayed at Florida another year, he wasn't going to have a better season than he had this year? Are you people really that dense? Are you really that silly? So all of these things are true, but they all work hand in hand. So pointing the finger at one, or whenever someone points the finger at you, pointing the finger at someone else doesn't mean what you did is wrong. Isn't wrong. So when people say, hey man, these players not finishing out when Mike Leach says, let's give attribution, because I hate when people do that. When Mike Leach says, hey, these players not finishing the job is lame. For you people out there, for you people who know, people who played the game, people who've covered the game intimately, for you people to then bring up Mike Leach leaving Oklahoma as an assistant coach before a bowl game to go and be the head coach of Texas Tech is the most disingenuous stuff I've ever seen. You're going to compare this man getting the opportunity of his life, not going to a point where he might get the opportunity, not knowing what's going to happen within that opportunity. He's the offensive coordinator for Oklahoma. He gets the opportunity to be a head coach at Texas A&M. At Texas Tech. Oh my gosh. At Texas Tech. He takes the job. That is different than a player then going, I'm going to sit out and hope that I do enough to make me marketable for an NFL that might make me drop several, positions anyway. Those are not the same things. I understand what you're saying, but it's not the same thing. It's disingenuous. It's disingenuous. Now, if Mike Leach had stepped down from Oklahoma in order to go and interview for various jobs in hopes that one of them would give him the job, that's the same thing. Mike Leach wasn't being disingenuous. He never abandoned anybody. If you're really being honest about it, it's never your team when you're an assistant coach. It's never your team. It's the head coach's team. And it is read and bled by the identity of the head coach. But as a player, here's the thing, and I played. When I'm not there, something's different. And somebody might say, oh, well, you're giving another player an opportunity to shine. That player doesn't need that opportunity to shine. It's a bowl game. You know how much happens between the bowl game and the next season. That player might not even be eligible the next time we roll up to a fall. If that player is a ball player, then they'll get their opportunity to play in the fall. So unless you're hurt, unless you're hurt, unless something is banged up, whatever, those are legitimate reasons to miss. But if you're just missing, you don't want to put a period on your career. Better yet, you're going to miss a bowl game and then go and play in a postseason bowl, or go and practice in postseason practices at an all-star game. Let me see which film makes more. All-star game film, bowl game film. I'm going to go with bowl game film. So there's two truths here. You can agree or disagree. It's okay. But just be honest about it. Hey, this is Gene Clemens. I don't like when players sit out, but I support it. I don't like when coaches leave the job before the job's done, but I support it. I don't like when coaches get fired in the middle of a season. I'll never support that because there's no reason to do it. There was no reason to not let Dan Mullen finish out what he started. There was no reason. There's no reason, because all of the hirings can be pushed back until the season is over. I don't care what you say about recruiting. Change recruiting. You want to make it fair. You want to talk about, well, I don't understand because they do this, then that's what you need to do. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. We do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree. But whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, you know what to do. Until next time.